Hello, I'm Alan Apt. I'm here to tell you about my new book, Keyboard of the Winds. I want to thank Boulder Bookstore, one of the best independent bookstores in the country, for carrying it, and I'd like to tell you a bit about it. It's an exciting adventure book that spans the globe with mountaineering and some of the most spectacular and challenging terrain in the world. The Boulder-based mountaineers, Tim Gallagher and his partner and future wife Emma Cassidy, and best friend Reinhard Franz, attempt challenging climbs on hazardous routes. I describe mountain climbing events that will keep you in suspense, and I try to share the sheer joy of experiencing the natural beauty and stunning scenery of majestic mountains in the Rockies, Cascades, Alaska Range, Alps, and Himalaya. This book isn't just about mountaineering. It's also a historical American novel with broad scope that depicts the 20th century characters pursuing the American dream in the 1960s and 1970s. What inspired this book was a tragic and shocking mountain climbing accident that occurred on July 3rd of 1976. Two friends of mine were killed on Missouri Mountain, even though they were experienced, fit, and well prepared. As decades passed, I observed many more incidents and accidents and the roles that preparation, timing, and luck played. And I realized there was a larger story to be told about those of us that pursue the ecstasy of high mountains and try to minimize the inherent risks. I carefully researched the technical and non-technical routes on the mountains I included in the book and read books by people who summited them, like Arlene Blum and Maurice Herzog, who both summited Annapurna. The climb of Annapurna is the last chapter of my book. Marco Cruz of Ecuador, the second person to climb Chimborazo, the second highest mountain in South America, is a lesser-known mountaineer who I really admire. And I was fortunate to have Marco guide us on a trekking trip to the highest mountains in the Ecuadorian Andes. We stayed at the base camps. The majority of the book is set in Colorado, Boulder, Rocky Mountain National Park, the 14ers near Leadville. And even though it's a novel, it still has great photos of mountains around the U.S. and the world. I'd like to read you a brief passage from my book. This is a chapter where Tim Gallagher and his good friend Reinhard Franz climb Long's Peak in the winter on the dangerous North Face route. It was exhilarating to be on top of Long's Peak in the magical winter realm. They were hoping the forecast was accurate and the good weather would last until they exited the mountaintop with a rappel. The summit of Longs is expansive, so they wandered around and soaked in the views in every direction. The recent snowstorm meant that everything was dazzling white in the low-angle sun. The mountains were always more awe-inspiring when snow-capped. They were glad they were wearing glacier glasses to protect their eyes. They could see the brilliant Mummy Mountains in the northwest, the Knife Edge Ridge undulating south to Mount Meeker, and the shining Indian peaks beyond. On the west side were the pointy summits of Spearhead, Chief's Head, and Mount Lady Washington to the east, with the Twin Sisters peaks beyond. It was a stunning mountain landscape. A breeze was starting to create snow plumes on the nearby peaks and exhaled on the snow all around them on the summit. It felt like an unwelcome premonition. To go back down the old cable route, they would have to do 2 easy rappels of 30 feet each. They were setting up the rappel back down the north face when they heard a low roaring sound similar to a high jet passing overhead. Tim looked for an airplane, but he couldn't see anything above them. On the western horizon, above the Continental Divide, he saw massive gray-green clouds spiraling up like angry prophets and swirling towards them. He was surprised to see a faint streak of lightning spiderweb out of the clouds. They could hear the distant rumble of thunder, a very rare sound in January. What looked like snow was slanting across the distant horizon. "Reinhardt, look at those clouds," said Tim. When Reinhardt turned and saw the rapidly approaching cerulean cloud bank with unfurling streaks of lightning, he knew they were in trouble. "Get out the tarp and bivy sacks. We're going to get blasted." The roar was high winds on the leading edge of the approaching Canadian cold front, arriving a day ahead of schedule. Swirling snow hit them as a fierce downdraft knocked them onto their knees and tried to lift and roll them off the snow-covered ledge. The 100-mile-per-hour blast pelted them with snow, hail, and dirt. Their faces were stinging. They instinctively flattened onto the snow and rock to keep from being blown over the East Diamond face of Lungs Peak as the wind tried to peel them off of the rock. I hope you'll visit the Boulder Bookstore, take a look at my book and all the other wonderful books I carry, and enjoy the atmosphere. Thanks for listening.